Hey YouTube, so today I just wanted to discuss basically teachers and what some teachers have done that I have found really beneficial in school, what other teachers have done that I have found has made school a bit more difficult, and in another video I will be talking about the pros and cons of both going to a public school and to a blind school, because I have done both. So, also I will mention that, like, in elementary school, my vision in my left eye was 20/200, which is a lot different now. I'm basically down to light perception. So that has definitely colored, a change in how I was treated as a person and as a student. In elementary school, I had teachers like Miss Hedgepeth I had in 4th grade. What she did that was really fantastic. She, on the very first day of school, because kids, were coming up and asking me questions, she asked, hey, do you want to get up in front of everybody and talk about what your different technology does? I had like a magnifying glass and a binocular at that time. She didn't ask me in front of everybody. She pulled me off to the side. She didn't put me on the spot. Because of my personality, I had no issue with that. I know other kids wouldn't want to do that, but I didn't feel pressurized. I was able to say, this is what it does. I let her take my magnifying glass around to each individual student so they could see how it worked. And I really think that started that school year off on the right note. Kids from then on would come up, they'd ask me questions, I'd answer them. And that was just fantastic, So that very much kind of got it in the students' minds that it wasn't taboo to talk about my blindness. It was okay. So I think that really helped my classmates, feel free to talk to me, to ask me questions, and to treat me like they would any other classmate. So I would, definitely suggest, if you have a student who's willing to talk about their disability, or if you are the parent of a child who's willing to talk about their disability, let that be known. I had other teachers who weren't quite as open about the fact I was blind, and it just kind of made it more awkward and harder than it needed to be. Also, I had teachers that had predetermined what they decided I would definitely need help with, which wasn't always the case. Instead of coming and asking me, hey, would you like to do this? Would you not like to do this? Which would have made it a lot easier. Let's take Jim, for example. Jim, if you have a student who's low vision, definitely talk to them. Hey, what do you feel comfortable doing? Like, for example, I didn't personally feel comfortable playing volleyball. A giant freaking ball headed for my face? No. But I loved dodgeball. And I know, you're thinking it's the same thing, only they're trying to hit you. Well, yeah, but I'm trying to hit them back. So whereas I didn't feel comfortable with volleyball, so I would do something different during volleyball, I loved dodgeball and would play dodgeball. So just little things like that really, I feel like benefited me. It allowed me to decide what did I feel comfortable with, what didn't I feel comfortable with, and above all, it allowed me to take control over what I did, which is huge, and allowed me the chance to advocate for myself, which is ginormous. Now, a not so good experience was I had a social studies teacher in the 6th grade who insisted that I learned all these little tiny countries. And at the time I was using large print. And I don't know how many of you realize how much maps and pictures get distorted when you blow them up. So I'm trying to find these teensy countries that I really couldn't see. Everything's blurry as all get out. And she insisted that I wasn't doing well just because I was lazy. Again, instead of asking me and talking to me, she had predetermined I was lazy, that's why I wasn't doing good. Now, luckily, at the time, I had a really, really good vision teacher named Nancy Bennett who, really helped navigate those waters and who really helped her to have more realistic expectations. And luckily my mom also was a very big support person, and her and Miss Bennett I definitely credit with definitely making sure that my needs and my abilities were taken into account while still making sure I did what I could do. And they didn't just let me have a free pass. It wasn't, well, you don't have to memorize anything. That's not the way it worked. Now, in university, I did a class that involved maps, and that teacher let me describe where things were. So I said, this country is above this country, and to the right of that country is this country, and I orally, that's how I did all my geography tests, and that worked out great. And we arranged times to go meet at her office. Now, the caveat was I had to find somebody to study with who didn't mind taking the time to describe things to me and to go over it and drill me on it. But I was able to find someone to do that, and that worked out fine. And that teacher was willing to make those accommodations, and that worked out fine. So there are different ways to handle map issues. The big thing is make sure you're open. Make sure that you are willing to meet that student at their levels and what they can do, and go from there. And as a parent, make sure that you are advocating for your child based on their levels while not overdoing it. Don't coddle them. Find that happy medium. From there, math was also another struggle. And in public school, I just kind of did the best I could, went through it. When I had a really good vision teacher like Miss Bennett was, that helped out a lot. She was able to really make sure that I had things broken down for me, that she could explain things in the way I needed them. When I moved to my next school district, unfortunately, a lot of those facilities and a lot of the abilities weren't there. Now, that school district had some really good teachers, like she's now known as Miss Randall, I believe, and Miss Goman, who again, they're in Mr. Hipskin, I will say. Their abilities were that they would come and talk to me, and we had a good line of communication, which was very different than teachers like the home ec teacher who decided that I shouldn't be cooking and who flat out told somebody that the boxers I sewed would have looked better if a sighted student would have done it. Notice a difference in philosophies there? That's pretty much what it kind of boils down to is students will rise to the occasion if you let them. Instead of the home ec teacher taking time to learn skills to teach somebody who was blind or had a disability, she just decided that it was too much trouble and that she couldn't be bothered, and then proceeded to tell other classmates about how the blind kid could not do X, Y, and Z. She had a student follow me around and allegedly write down everything that I got to do one day in home ec after I complained I was not able to do things my sighted peers were able to do. Luckily, again, I was very good at advocating for myself, and my family is very good at advocating for me. If you find your kid in that position, Do not be afraid to complain to the principal, to the superintendent, to the school board. Do not be afraid to fight for your child to have equal access to learn skills that they are going to need to know. I hate to break it to you, but as a blind person, I still have to cook my own food. Fairies do not just pop up out of nowhere and cook my own food for me. If you are a teacher and you have a blind student and you do not know how to teach them, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody. You can reach out to the National Federation of the Blind, the American Council of the Blind. You can reach out to your district's vision teacher if you have one, and and get your student those services if applicable. Reach out to me. You can reach out to the Hadley Institute for the Blind. There are a number of organizations that you can reach out to try to understand how to teach a child with a disability. But never in a million years is it ever acceptable to complain to another about a child's disability to another child. It's unprofessional and it's rude. Grow up. So, other, people in high school, fantastic. After I left that school district, I went to the blind school. Some of that was due to losing more vision, and some of that was due to, there were great individual teachers. Fantastic individual teachers. The school district was not well funded, and at that time I needed more Braille skills. Although the vision teacher that I had at that time, because we had moved, so it wasn't Nancy Bennett anymore, she was brand new, very nice lady. She learned Braille, fantastic person. I just needed more assistance than what was available at that school district. So I went to the Indiana School for the Blind. Two people who two people, and then there's a whole group of people. The two people who really I credit with a lot of my success at an academic level is Miss Squires and Miss Reynolds. Very, very different people. Very, very different personalities, but they both expected their students to achieve the highest level of success that they could. And to both of these people, I am immensely grateful. Miss Squires, for example, she was the math teacher, and I went into math, and Miss Keeneman was another math teacher who held math help, and she deserves a lot of credit for this too. I went to math help 4 times a week. I was not good at algebra. Come to find out, geometry I rocked, and statistics I'm fine. Algebra I'm not good at. And Miss Squires, at the time I did not know Nimith, which is the math version of Braille. She taught me Braille. She, worked with me over and over and over, and she had high standards, and she wasn't gonna let anybody just cruise by. You were gonna have to work, and you were going to have to learn the material. But that work ethic proved so very valuable, and I honestly cannot express enough gratitude to her. And Miss Reynolds, same thing. Miss Reynolds taught English, and she had very, very high standards, and you were going to learn the material, and that was that. And, neither of these teachers were mean or unpleasant, but they had expectations. They would tell you in advance, here are the expectations. They would do what they could to help you meet the expectations, but they weren't going to do it for you. And that kind of teaching style works for me. and just fantastic teachers. You'd be hard pressed to find a better math or English teacher anywhere. And the other main department that really helped me at the one school was the orientation and mobility department. You had Miss Grimwasman, Miss Eads, Mr. Romano, Miss Wilcox. They were primarily the instructors I worked with. But O&M is so very, very important. The ability and the confidence to get around matters so, so much. And there are so many blind people that just don't have that. So I credit a lot of my willingness to travel to England and to go to Barack Obama's inauguration and to do all the walking and the going and the stuff that I do. They definitely deserve a lot of credit for that, because without those fundamental skills and without that foundation, who knows what I'd be doing, honestly. From there, I went to Ball State and I double majored in psychology and criminal justice and minored in sociology. And there were so many really, really, really good professors at Ball State. Two of my favorites definitely came from criminal justice, Professor Christman and Professor Edwards. They were definitely two professors that not only could I go to and talk about my coursework with, but if I didn't know where something was, or, I'd have no problem saying, hey, do you know where this is? Or do you know where that is? Or I'm starting my internship. How do I get to the front door? Just little things like that I'm very picky about who I ask those kind of questions to. Because if I think that you think I'm an idiot, then I will not ask that. I will go out of my way. I will I don't know, but I will go to extreme measures to not ask, something as basic as that. So definitely just two, again, really, really good professors. Another professor, Dr. Simon Deck, who was in the psych department. Really, really good professor. I did intro to neuropsychology and statistics with her, and intro to neuropsychology was kind of challenging because there's a lot of images and a lot of slides, but again, I felt like I could go to her and I could say, hey, conceptually, I'm not understanding this, or could you explain in a bit more detail about this? Same thing, I had to do a science, I did astronomy, and I can't remember that professor's name, but same thing. He took me into his office and he found different ways to teach me scales and, just that hands-on experience and that willing to repeat things in different ways until conceptually it clicked. It really, really helped me out a lot. So, I know this video was kind of long and kind of rambly. And kind of the takeaway points are to talk to students, find out what they need, find out what you can do to help, and don't be afraid to teach things in different ways. Office hours are fantastic if you can keep that consistent, and the whole demeanor about how you talk to these students and interact with these students is going to impact if they're willing to ask you for help, to ask you for assistance. So hopefully that helped somebody. If there's any questions or anything else anybody wants to know, by all means, feel free to drop a comment, or you can email me, blind1@gmail.com, BLYNDDE1@gmail.com, and thanks for watching.